Welcome to Newsmakers. I'm Andrew Donovan. It's a remarkable week for Central New York, one that will be remembered for decades. Computer chip manufacturer Micron committing up to $100 billion to build a mega fab campus in the town of Clay. Joining us this week, the man who promised it would happen, Onondaga County Executive Ryan McMahon. But first, a look back at this week's transformative announcement. Governor, I'd like to start with you. I'm wondering if you could emphasize how big this is. You make a lot of announcements. All of you make a lot of announcements. How big is this one?
Does it help that I'm speechless? Does that help you understand that this is stunning in its scale? I've been governor just a little bit over a year. I was dead set on making sure this happened. But also, this is something that is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for this region. It had a long, hard history. I was here in the 70s as a student. I saw the decline, I felt the decline. The lake was polluted, the businesses were leaving. Our greatest export was our people. To be able to be governor at this time and to have worked with these incredible individuals to make this happen, this doesn't happen every day in the life of a governor of New York and not even a governor elsewhere in the United States. This is extraordinary. And I am humbled to be here and have played a role in making this happen. But this is not about us. This is not for us. This is about the future generations. This is the most transformative announcement in the history of this state. And I'm absolutely deeply humbled to be here as a participant.
So regarding your question, why here in Clay? Of course, the land that sets us up well for not just building one clean room, but to be able to build 4 clean rooms over the course of next several years, and do so with availability of water, clean, reliable power, important considerations. But as I also said, the community, the diverse talent pool here, the education system here from schools to colleges and universities, the proximity to Albany Nanotech Center, the Air Force research labs, all of this also fits in well with the kind of business, kind of environment that we want to create here. And of course, as part of the diverse talent pool, again, I can't overemphasize the importance of veterans that are strong here. This really fits in well with Micron values of recruiting a diverse workforce, and Micron has a history of hiring strong veteran workforce as well. So really several benefits here that all come together, along with, of course, the support that has been provided by the governor and the state to make sure that our investments in the future can be successful and our hiring can be realized here as well.
I'd just add one point in terms of the importance of the chips. From a national perspective, this is a national defense issue. One of the groups we had lobby to get our CHIPS bill done were our generals and our leaders of the armed forces, because most of our military equipment depends on these chips. They were even worried that we'd have some slowdowns in what we could provide to Ukraine because of the chip shortage. So this is vital to our economic security, to our everyday lives, but also to our national security. If a foreign power control these chips, there could be a real danger to that, Andrew.
Joining me now is the 4th person on that stage, from that stage to our studio, the County Executive Ryan McMahon. Welcome back. You've had a few days to let this sink in. How are you feeling now?
I feel great, Andrew. It's everything we've said it could be, it now is, and the greatest company in the world for memory technology has made their largest investment and they're placed their biggest bet on the people of this county. And now it's our job to help them execute and to make sure that that economic opportunity that we've been celebrating happens and reaches every corner of this community.
How has life already changed in Central New York in just the last few days?
I spoke earlier today with a group of real estate agents, builders, and developers. I can tell you already, land that was once sitting there with no calls has already been picked up and optioned. Prices are already going higher in certain areas. The real estate market is going to feel that. We're going to feel that appreciation growth. Moody's came out with a fact sheet on Onondaga County we're not asking to borrow money. They're our rating agency, right? They help us get our credit score. They just gave an update saying that Onondaga County they're now projecting us to grow our tax base 9% a year over the next 20 years. These are just the early moments. But what really we want to see accomplished is that the mindset changes. And that in this community, we believe in ourselves because some of the smartest people in the world certainly believe in us. And this is a validation moment for our community, our values, our strategy, and most importantly for our people.
That's an important piece because you already have people saying, I don't believe this. We saw the four of you sign a letter of commitment. I'm not sure how much legal weight that piece of paper has. What is the weight behind this? What makes you so confident that what was said Tuesday is the real deal?
We've been going through this process for a year and a half. Micron needs to make these investments to continue to be the leader in memory technology in the world. And they're making them here. So they need to do this for their own business. We're the beneficiary of the greatest site selection process in the history of the country. And they had a great site selection team, and we had a great site attraction team. We will go through many, many different contracts and agreements in the days ahead and months ahead. But we're already working cohesively with their team, from their people team to their foundation to their team that's going to have to get this fab built and built on time.
All right, we're just getting started with our conversation as we remember the great week we've had in Central New York. We want to hear about that process. How did Central New York even get in the running? More with the county executive on Newsmakers after this. Newsmakers is back. Our newsmaker is Micron this week and will be a newsmaker for likely the next 2 decades. Joining me now, the man who promised this would happen, the Onondaga County Executive, Ryan McMahon. You tout the site selection process, which you ultimately won, but take us back. How did it get started? How did Onondaga County even get onto the list of possibilities for Micron?
Yeah, so first, whenever you're going through a process, you have to have a site that works. So you need the unique power, the electric, the water, the wastewater capacity, and then you need the land. It needs to be big enough if you want to compete for a mega project. And we learned in 2019 when we were competing for an investment by the Taiwan Semiconductor Company, TSMC. They looked at our site, they really liked our site and what it could do. We didn't have enough land. So our administration at that point made a strategic decision that we were going to become a mega site. And we started to certainly pick up land in that part of the process. And then we started talking to other companies. Even before the CHIPS Act was even being talked to at the federal level, we were being looked at by Intel. And we worked with Intel on growing our site to meet their needs. And at that point, a lot of the momentum happened to repatriate manufacturing. A lot of the geopolitical pressures with China and Taiwan, and certainly the supply chain issues that were happening in our country. We were introduced to Micron by Senator Schumer's office. And we eventually quickly became Micron's New York site, being that we were the only mega site in the state of New York that could do everything they needed to do. And then we went through a rigorous site selection process. They hired a site selection firm who put us through a rigorous process, well over a year, testing our site, testing our community, testing our growth strategies, testing our higher ed institutions and how they can partner, workforce development. How are you going to recruit and retain high talent, and how are we going to get talent in from all over the country, if not the world? And once you go through that process, where they're like, all right, this community checks those boxes, then you get into tough negotiations on money, on incentives, and making sure that your state is at a level playing field with other states. And then you have the Federal CHIPS Act, making sure our country was at a level playing field with other countries. And so that was really, once you could prove this is a place where the company could A, build, but then B, be successful with employing people and then retaining people, then it got down to brass tacks with money. And certainly then we were sitting there for a period of time waiting for that CHIPS Act to pass.
I know you spent a lot of time having these conversations outside the area. You had to go elsewhere.
Correct.
How much time did you spend on the road? What was life like knowing you were going out to sell your hometown?
We've been doing, with my administration, we've been building up relationships with site selection agencies. And that bode very well in this process. The firm that Micron hired to lead their site selection process we knew, and we knew some of the key players there, and they already had some knowledge of our site because of that. But we spent time in Chicago with our site attraction team in this process, San Jose, Half Moon Bay, California, all trying to get face time with this company and stay on their radar. And at some point, some very tense negotiations. Micron spent a lot of time in Syracuse over the course of the last 120 days. I think they've been here 9 times. And we spent a lot of time with Micron in Syracuse. And then confidentiality being important in this process, at times when things were hot, we would go down to Albany and meet in Albany. But I would say over the last 90 days, our team has been working on this every day with our partners at the state and federal levels.
Of your time in Syracuse, I keep hearing about nights at Lemongrass in Armory Square. How did Lemongrass become the local headquarters for these conversations?
Yeah, so we, in January, our first time we actually had Sanjay and the complete Micron team in, we had a dinner at Lemongrass. They actually shut down the restaurant for us.
The governor came at some
The governor
point.
came, and so we really got to interact at all levels. It was a lively discussion. One that I think both sides appreciated, but tense. This is always a competition, and you're talking about some of the most talented executives in the world who their job is to get the best deal for their stakeholders, and our job is to get the best deal for our stakeholders, and that starts with getting them to come here. So Lemongrass was where it started, and certainly everybody's become fond of that process and those memories since then.
You were there again this week, I hear.
Yes, sir.
Started there, ended
Yes,
there.
sir.
You talk about testing different components of the community. Was there a hang-up for Micron? What was the biggest obstacle you had to overcome in your pitch to get them to say, okay, we believe in you, we believe in every component we need for you to show us?
Yeah, I think the retention of talent was something that we really had to prove. Showing that we could get construction talent there to build the site. We'll work with you with our great higher ed partners to make sure that you have the workforce you need. I think that was a strength. The retention of talent. What are my employees going to do? What's the 25-year-old going to do? The 35-year-old, the 55-year-old? What are their families going to do? And the day we had Sanjay in, it was in January. It was 1 degree outside. 1 degree. It was beautiful. It was sunny, but it was cold. So what are they going to do year-round was a question they talked to. So in our community, we've talked about recently amenities and the types of amenities you need for tourism. But in the back of my mind, when we were talking about these projects that we've been going through that have been somewhat controversial to some, I knew I had the greatest memory company of manufacturing technology in the world looking very hard at us. And I knew to get them here, they had to believe that we were a growing community and that they would be able to retain talent, meaning you need tier 1 amenities in the community.
Well, a lot of excitement now, but there is some hard work ahead. We'll talk about the challenges to make sure that this project gets going in the next few years, more with the county executive on News Channel 9 right after this. Welcome back to Newsmakers. I'm Andrew Donovan, joined by the Onondaga County Executive Ryan McMahon, who may just be coming off his biggest career in public service, maybe in your life professionally. I know the excitement is really the focus right now, but there's a lot of work ahead. There's a lot of pieces this community has to put together to be ready for the ground to break at the construction site and then the mass of people that you hope come. What's the focus immediately? How do you actually get to a table and plan these pieces?
Yeah, so we've thought a lot about this throughout the process. And so this is now about execution, right? Explaining the opportunity to the community so the community feels part of this, but now executing, because that's where the economic opportunity comes. So we have work to do to finish up preparation on the site related to environmental reviews, wetland mitigation plans, permitting. In 2023, at some point, we'll start the construction to clear the site. And then Micron will be ready to build the first fab in early 2024. And so we got work to do on our end and with the Micron team on them. We have to obviously work with the Micron team on developing that workforce pipeline, which will start today, even though the first employees may not be working in the plant for years. So also the tier 1 supply chain companies that we need here to support Micron, We're in conversations with them now, and those conversations are going to have to expedite as we find areas for them. But other issues that are challenges, but opportunities, right, to create wealth in the community, housing. We need more housing units, right? That our builders and our contractors aren't just going to be building fabs or taking down highways. They're going to be building new buildings, new homes, new apartments, as we need to meet the demand of individuals in our community today, but also understanding we will have population growth and it will be significant.
I want to dive into each of those components you just listed because there's a lot there. But first, I think it's important people understand this is a 4 fab goal. But 4 fabs won't go up even this decade. This is when the 20-year time span comes into play. If you look at the beautiful rendering that Micron provided this week, you can see the 4 distinct buildings. It starts with one of them. It starts probably
Correct.
with one of these 4. What's it like for people to have to wait so long? That's new here, right? We want to cut the ribbon and we want it to be done. How do you prepare people for decades of work?
We need this time to get ahead of the game in some of these challenges, especially housing. So the 12 to 24 months before we start seeing an influx of new pressure is going to be important. We're already seeing the economic impact of this with activity, and there'll be a lot of speculation in the marketplace. But we need that time to prepare, get more housing units started. Remember, the first wave of jobs are going to be construction jobs. There's a project labor agreement with this, so you're going to see all your local trades on this. That's still not going to be enough workers, so they're going to bring people from all over the Northeast and all over the country to work on this, and they're going to need housing, whether it's permanent housing, temporary housing, or whatnot. So these are really the first challenges we see. We have time to get in front of it, and we will.
On the point of actually building the plants, it's not just about employing people there permanently, it's about the jobs to get the building up. Mayor Walsh this week has already said he's concerned about having enough because you've got to build I-81, which there's already concern people will have to come out of the area to do construction on I-81. Around the same time frame, you're now starting construction of this mega fab. Just on construction, how will you find enough people?
Yeah, the mayor's right. And so part of what we did when we're in the project labor agreement itself, when you're looking at percentages of union labor compared to percentages of non-union labor, we had to have realistic percentages. So I believe it was about 50%, 50%, and understanding that everyone here locally is going to work, everyone. Our job on the long term, because this is a 20-year construction project, not 2 or 3 year construction project, is to develop more people in these industries through our apprenticeship programs and our work train programs. But in the short term, people are going to come in from outside the area, and they're going to call Onondaga County home for 1 year, 2 years, 5 years, maybe forever. And they'll fall in love with our community just like Micron did. So that's real opportunity. If you think about the hospitality industry, think about the real estate industry, the financial industries. These are all new people coming into the community. They're going to be here for an extended period of time.
45,000 to 50,000 jobs are expected. What do you think the breakdown is of people being native from Central New York versus moving in?
I think at first you're going to see a lot of recruitment efforts for the immediate needs. But over time, I think you're going to see all this economic activity really benefiting the Central New York region. I think you'll see probably a 75-25 split. And the reality is, when you have growth, that helps everything. The cost of living for everybody goes down when people are paying more people paying into the pot, and essentially the opportunities. Now we do a great job educating our kids. Then they go to college, some go into the workforce. Now, if they're going to college, they can come back. If they're going right into the workforce, you have the marquee technology company right here. And then the marquee supply chain companies. These companies are amazing companies that are going to come here because Micron's here in their own right. Companies that people want to work their whole careers at.
We do hear a lot about these indirect jobs, the supply chain companies. Can you give specifics as to exactly what type of industries will follow Micron?
Yeah, the tooling companies that really help make those products for Micron and operate them. Think about companies like ASML, Lam, Tokyo Electric, these Applied Materials. These are all companies that strategically it will be in their interest to be here in Central New York, and we're going to talk to them and we'll work out ways to get them here and help them get their workforce ready. But these are the types of companies that that are just fantastic companies. They're all coming. And then there's going to be other national companies. There's going to be national retailers that have never looked at Onondaga County because of the population that will be here. So it's going to hit all economic sectors in our population.
All right, we're going to take another break. We have more to talk about, but on the way to break, County Executive, I want to show you what just went up on I-690 in the last 24 hours. A billboard welcoming Micron to Central New York. Newsmakers is back after this. You didn't get to see the smile on Ryan McMahon's face because he was off camera while this was on your screen, this billboard welcoming Micron to Central New York. What do you think of that?
I think it's great. Somebody beat us to the punch there. I want to know who it is.
This is your hometown,
Yeah.
and you've just helped land perhaps the biggest announcement for this community in generations. How are you feeling considering you were born and raised here?
Yeah, I think overall, you think a lot about that, and you really think a lot about that, Andrew, in the process when, what if we don't win this? Because I know how big this is and what this will mean for future Onondaga County residents and Central New Yorkers, and not everybody did. So that's a large weight to have on your back, and certainly we're just ecstatic. We made the centerpiece of our administration fighting poverty. Poverty is a symptom of a lack of economic opportunity. And we just created the largest economic opportunity in the history of this country here in Central New York. It's coming. So when we look at how to really help people change their lives forever and generations to come, we now have the anchor who's going to help us with that in Micron.
County Executive Ryan McMahon, you're going to stay with us for an episode next week. Until then, have a great weekend, everyone.